The Shroud of Darkness, a Star Wars fan story. Darkness rises. 10 years after the Battle of Endor and the fall of Darth Vader, the Emperor and the Galactic Empire, Luke Skywalker and the rest of the galaxy have moved on from the events that took place a decade ago. Luke Skywalker, now the Grand Master of the New Jedi Order, has spent the last 10 years building his new Jedi Praxium on the planet turned home of the rebel base Yavin 4, and training 3 brand new Jedi Knights in his new ways of the Jedi Order, and teaching them about both the dark side and light side of the Force. As General Leia Organa Solo and the rest of the New Republic are being set up and tracking down any remaining Empire loyalists and crime syndicates trying to rise to power, Luke Skywalker worries one of his students may be turning to the dreaded dark side of the Force. Our story opens up with a shot of Luke's Jedi Praxium while we hear the distant sounds of sabers clashing. Lightsaber training and sparring, one of Ashla Morrow's favorite pastime with Eli Sarko. Ashla is a tall girl standing at about 5'10" with medium-length dark brown hair and green emerald eyes with a dark brown Jedi robe, and she wielded a silver and black hilt with a sky blue blade emitting from the shroud, while Eli Sarko, a boy standing at around 5'8" with short jet black hair and brown eyes wearing a white and tan Jedi robe, who also wielded a blue-bladed saber, but his hilt was black and gold. Eli and Ashla were inseparable. Ever since they were both just Padawans, the two had always been causing mischief and massive headaches for Luke Skywalker. The two Jedi Knights have been sparring together for the past 8 years since they first built their first sabers. Hell, they were battling each other with wooden sticks before they were able to use the training sabers and the marksman Atron training remotes. Some would call them the Anakin and Obi-Wan of their generation. They almost were. In Luke's eyes, he saw them and Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi as two halves of one whole warrior. Ashla was very proficient in the Gemso variation of lightsaber combat, while Eli Sarko would be considered Obi-Wan's successor in the defensive form, Sora Su of lightsaber combat. Luke always enjoyed seeing them spar. To him, it was like the stories and hollow recordings he had seen of his father and Obi-Wan sparring. Today was different, though. Eli was gaining the upper hand on Ashla, which almost never happens. So Ashla decided to try a move that was considered forbidden. She would deactivate her saber and reactivate it to win the fight. When she did, she miscalculated her aim and ended up cutting Eli's saber right in half, severing the kyber crystal and the electronics inside. Eli was expecting Ashla to apologize for getting way into the fight like always. He didn't mind when she did. He was never very strong in the Force. He barely had enough midi-chlorians to be considered a Padawan by Huang in the Grand Republic era of Jedi. But through determination and focus, Eli had become one of the best shots Luke had seen since the entire rebellion. He was also able to use the Force to enhance his reflexes, which made him so great at Soresu. Ashla didn't apologize, though. Her hands were trembling like they had been every now and then for the past 3 months. And when Eli looked up, her eyes weren't the emerald green they were. They had slight hints of yellow now, but quickly faded back to emerald. Luke also noticed her eyes. This wasn't the first time he had witnessed Ashla tremble, and he tried to remember if he had ever seen her eyes do that. Begins to wonder if he should have taught his students about the dark side all along. After seeing the damage she had done to Eli's saber, and the look of shock on everyone's face, she runs back to her quarters with tears streaming down her face. She knows what she did. She felt the change in her as she dealt the blow that destroyed Eli's saber. She tapped into the dark side. This isn't the first time it's happened. Back when the Empire first took over on Jakku, her family was taken by the Empire because they refused to sell their land to them while she was getting supplies and food for the week. She can't remember what happened. All she knows is she screamed so loud that it sent the transport off course and into a giant heaping pile of sand and shards of metal. The bodies were so fused together from the heat that there was no separating them. What she does remember is the soft, warm feeling she got when she first saw Luke Skywalker and when he took her in as his first Padawan in his new Jedi Order. Ashla then hears a few knocks on her door. "Come in," said Ashla. "Hey, is everything okay? Are you okay?" asked a very concerned but cautious Luke Skywalker. "I'm not sure, Master. My powers have rapidly increased since I got here." Sometimes I wonder if I'm destined to turn out like Darth Vader and the other fallen Jedi of the past, said a very scared and almost teary-eyed Ashla. Ashla, I want you to listen to me very carefully. I know exactly how you feel. The pull to the dark side is within everyone. If I were to tell you about the times I fought back against the dark side of the Force, would it make you more comfortable in talking about this? Asked Luke Skywalker. Ashla and Luke sit there in silence for around 2 to 3 minutes before Ashla finally tells him it would help her. Luke proceeds to tell Ashla everything, from losing Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, watching his master die in front of him, finding out Darth Vader was his father. Leia and Luke were trying to keep that under wraps until the time was right. He didn't mention the time R2 showed him when Anakin killed his mother Padme, or that the old Jedi Order was so naive that they were the reason for their downfall. Sensing Ashla still hadn't calmed down from his stories, Luke looked at her and asked, "What's still bothering you? You can talk to me and tell me anything that's going on with you." Ashla looked at Luke with a cold, blank stare and said, "Why did you teach us about the dark side? It calls out to me every moment of every day, almost like it's natural." Luke looks at Ashla with a calming smile and says, "Because it is natural, Ashla. The dark side and light side are always going to call to each and every individual, not just with Force users like us, but everyone. It's just up to the user on how they wield their power. You can use the Force to help others while helping yourself. Always remember to follow the will of the Force, Ashla, not your will, my will, or anyone's. Listen to the Force, and the Force will listen to you." "Come with me," Luke said. "I want to show you something." Ashla and Luke leave her quarters and head to the Jedi Praxium archives. The Praxium archives on Yavin 4 were very similar to the archives on Coruscant, except with Luke Skywalker. All you had to do was ask, and he would help you find whatever piece of information or artifact you were looking for, and he would teach and explain what the artifact or scroll or whatever it was you needed access to did and what it was used for. Luke didn't fully agree with the way the Order was run under Master Yoda or the thousands of Jedi before he was even thought of. Luke wanted his students to embrace emotions further than compassion. He wanted his students to be trained in all aspects in the Force. Luke felt that in order to understand the great mystery of the Force, one must study all of the aspects and be willing to do as the will of the Force called for. Before I show you this, Ashla, there's a few things I want to tell you about, specifically from my master's time within the Jedi Order. Ashla just looked at Luke and let out a small smirk and chuckle. Master Ashla started, "You just told me about how Darth Vader was your father. Anakin Skywalker's my favorite Jedi to look up." But Luke cut Ashla off with just the raise of his hand. "As much as I appreciate those kind words, and I appreciate you," started Luke, "I am not talking about my father in this instance. I'm talking about the 7th form of lightsaber combat, Vapad, and the Jedi who used it in the most crucial point of the Grand Republic and the old Jedi Order. You see," Luke continued, "Master Windu created the lightsaber form of Vapad in order to keep his dark side in check. It allowed him to draw upon his opponent's dark side and project it back onto them, allowing him to have complete balance so he wouldn't be consumed by the dark side. If you'd like, I can show you how to overcome this. You must be ready. You must be in control of your emotions." "Are you sure this will help me control everything that's been happening to me?" Ashla asked, not very convinced that the darkness within her can be controlled. "Is what you've told me everything you're concerned about?" Ashla thinks for a minute. She has been hearing this cold, dark whisper in her head for the last 6 months. She isn't sure if she should tell Luke in fear of being kicked out of the academy, even though Luke had always told them he would never kick them out, but would understand if they chose to voluntarily leave. They were always welcome back at any point. "Yes, Master, that was everything." "Then follow me. I think this will help us understand and overcome your problems." And Ashla walked towards the back end of the archives where Luke kept the holocrons. But the one he pulled out was different. Instead of being the typical blue cube that Ashla had studied many times, Luke pulled out a red triangle container that looked like the Jedi holocrons. As Ashla walked closer to it, she felt a coldness come over her, and the voice in her head trying to say something, but Ashla shakes it off. "You taught us about the Sith artifacts, text, scrolls, but not these. How come?" asked Ashla, her tone starting to become cold. "Because he doesn't trust you. He isn't who you think he is. He doesn't trust any of you that he's trained. He's no better than the Jedi before him," said the cold whisper inside Ashla's head. This sparked something within Ashla. Was the voice telling her the truth? Did Luke not trust any of them? He taught them about every other aspect of the Jedi and Sith, but not the Sith holocrons or Vapad. What else was he hiding from them? Ashla thought. What else was he keeping from them? Did he really trust them? Did he actually save Darth Vader? But before she could think anymore, she was brought back to the present when she heard Luke clearing his throat. You know I can sense your fear and anger, right, Ashla? Is everything okay? Are you going to help me or lecture me, Luke? Shouted Ashla, her anger rising, causing her to feel herself physically getting hot. Ashla, please calm down. I was only trying to help you. I didn't show you these because in order to open it, one must use the dark side of the Force and pour anger and hatred into it to open it. None of you have shown any signs of the dark side, so I saw no purpose in showing you these. I can see I was wrong for that. I'm sorry, said Luke. You know he's lying to you, right? There's no point in believing a word he said the voice from earlier. The more and more the voice spoke to Ashla, the more and more her trust in Luke was shaken. She wasn't sure who to believe. You ready, Ashla? Asked Luke. Yes, Master, let's do this, said Ashla with newfound confidence. Ashla and Luke begin to reach out with the Force to open the holocron, pouring fear, anger, hate, and aggression into the Force. Luke was wanting to help Ashla balance herself, but she felt the full power of the dark side and decided she wanted to use the dark side full-time for her own version of good. Luke begins to feel the shift in the Force and yells, Ashla, no! But he's too late. The constant conflict of Luke and the full submersion into the dark side from Ashla caused the holocron to spark and grow in energy until it basically overloaded and shot lightning everywhere and exploding. Ashla took this opportunity to send Luke flying through the stone walls of the temple, and she took off with multiple scrolls and artifacts to fully master the dark side and to figure out whose voice she keeps hearing inside her head. Luke comes to with Eli Sarko asking if he's okay, and Luke asks where Emil is. Emil, a somewhat short, somewhat tall girl with jet black hair and a white and black Jedi robe, was off in the hangar bay repairing her favorite X-Wing when her comlink went off. Hey Eli, what's up? How was Practi? Emil started to ask before she was interrupted by Eli freaking out. You need to come to Luke's quarters now. Please hurry, shouted Eli. Emil finished working on her X-Wing and headed over to Luke's quarters. Luke proceeds to tell Emil everything that happened and notices Emil's demeanor change. Everything okay there, Emil? Will Ashla be allowed back? Asked a very concerned Emil. No, Emil, I won't throw Ashla out. I just want to help her. But I need both of you to help me with this. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I'm ready to fight Ashla. She's like my sister. She basically is my only family aside from you guys. No, I'm sorry, Master. I can't help you with this. You already know I'm indifferent about being a Jedi to begin with. Now I gotta help fight my only family I've known since my family abandoned me? I just can't. It sounds like you are more equipped to handle this. I'm not ready to fight your battles. No one said anything about fighting Ashla, Emil. I don't want to fight her. If you would like, you can take some time to go and think it over, Luke said. Later that night, while Luke was meditating, he reached out to an old friend that he hadn't heard from in a few months. Was it normal for Jedi Force ghosts to go on vacation? When out of nowhere, he hears, "It's been a while, my son." Luke turns around to see his father, Anakin Skywalker. He hadn't seen him since the celebration party on Endor all those years ago. Father, do you know how many times I've reached out before? Why did Ben only show up? I save you from darkness, and you can't even appear to guide me through things? Said Luke with his anger rising.
I know, son. And I'm sorry. You've never needed my guidance before this event. Obi-Wan was able to look after you in ways I never could, even if I hadn't turned. But I'm here to tell you, remember to always see the good in someone's heart, as you did in mine. No one is ever truly gone. You saved me, and I know you can save this girl. You may take after my Jedi abilities, but you take after your mother more than you think. She would have done anything to save me if I let her. I know you will do the same for Ashla. Good luck, son. I will be here.
That's the thing about Luke Skywalker. He always knew when to help the other person and not give up. He saved his father from the dark side. He isn't going to let Ashla go down the same route. Remember to see the good in someone's heart. Thank you, Father, said Luke. 4 months later, Ashla has been studying all the information she could get out of the scrolls and artifacts she had taken from the Jedi Temple a few months ago. Ashla had learned to master her emotions, but not balance them. She had spent the last 4 months reading up on the Rule of Two, established by Darth Bane, the lore of bleeding a Kyber crystal, the stories of Darth Revan and Malik, and giving into all the anger and hate she had pent up over the last 8 years. Where it came from, she couldn't tell you. At first she was scared. Now she is going around terrifying locals around Yavin 4 with her brute strength in the Force. Ashla, who already had around a 16,000 midichlorian count and was strong in the Force, jumped from a level 6 on a power scale to a level 8 within 4 months. Ashla was going around testing her new powers, which included Force Lightning and Force Drain. Her eyes were no longer the same emerald green from 4 months ago. She had black rings around her eyes, and the color of her eyes was growing more and more yellow. When she returned to her camp, she finished reading up on how to exactly bleed a Kyber crystal and decided she would try it herself with her own saber. After deconstructing her curved, hilted lightsaber, Ashla took the crystal and began pouring all her anger and hatred into the sky blue crystal she's had. At first, she thought it wasn't working, getting angrier and angrier when she was thrown into an unknown planet that she hadn't ever been on. "Where am I? What is this place?" asked a very confused Ashla, when all of a sudden she was almost hit by a group of warriors that she could have sworn looked like Mandalorians. Well, that's because they are. "Am I on Mandalore? When was this? I don't remember reading or learning about this." When all of a sudden she witnessed a purple-bladed saber just hacking its way through enemies. But to Ashla, it looked like he was hacking through everyone he laid eyes on. Next thing Ashla knew, she saw the purple-bladed saber heading for her when she was thrown into another vision where she witnessed Revan cut Malik's jaw off. Before she could even let out a gasp, she was shown her personal favorite hero and Jedi ever inducted, Anakin Skywalker. But this time he was back on Tatooine. He had just won the Bunta Eve Classic. Then she saw him turn and begin slaughtering younglings, but then saved by Luke in the throne room 10 years ago, and Ashla became conflicted with what path she wanted to take. The dark side felt and came natural, but the light side is what she had known her entire time training. This conflict within her sent her out of the Force visions, and she noticed her hand was bleeding, but it wasn't her crystal bleeding red. Her crystal somehow gained a purplish, glowing hue to it. When she ignited her saber, it wasn't blue, or red, or purple. It was a weird mix of the colors. What in the actual hell was that? That was what you could be. Fully commit to the dark side, Ashla Morrow. Join me if you want to fully harness your potential. I can show you what Luke Skywalker didn't, said the mysterious voice. "Who are you? Why are you in my head?" shouted Ashla. "I am everything Skywalker is not. I trust you, Ashla. Soon I will reveal myself, but you must prove to me you are fully committed to the dark side. You cannot be conflicted when you face your test," said the cold whisper. "Master Luke trusted me. He taught me everything I know," Ashla replied back. "If he really trusted you, do you think he would have waited to teach you about the dark side? Do you think he would have waited for someone to show dark side tendencies before even thinking about showing you the holocrons? He may have been tempted by the dark side, but how do you know if he's even fallen and came back?" "What makes you think?" the voice said, but was cut off by Ashla screaming at it to shut up so loud with the aid of the Force that the trees around her cracked and some had fallen over, and the voice disappeared. Sitting down on one of the fallen trees, Ashla begins to cry. She had no idea where to go, who to turn to, or even who to trust. Everything she's known for the last 8 to 10 years of her life was a lie. She had no idea what was real and what was in her head. Was it in her head? Was it some terrible trick of the Force gone wrong? Was it the Force's will that Ashla had gone down this path? Ashla begins to think about all the recordings of Anakin Skywalker in his prime. During the Clone Wars, the stories Luke told them about the rebellion and defeating the Emperor all those years ago. "No, I can't. I won't. It didn't work before, and I won't allow it to happen now." "Why would it work now?" asked Ashla, drying her tears. "Because Ashla, Anakin was weak. Luke is weak," the mysterious voice kept saying, growing louder and louder, to the point she became so angry She let out another massive force scream, this time cracking the ground around her, sending the voice out of her head with a menacing cackle echoing for a short time. Ashla, remembering that force screams were typically used by dark side users, decided to read more and more into different dark side abilities. Coming up on the background of force lightning, Ashla begins to wonder if when the holocron sent lightning everywhere was enough for her to obtain the ability to produce her own force lightning. She began to manifest and internalize her anger and pain and hatred. It was enough to produce a small amount of lightning, but nothing like the teachings and scrolls said about lightning. Ashla begins to really wonder if Luke had even trusted them. If he did, why wouldn't he teach them everything about the dark side? Was Luke holding them back? Were any of his teachings about attachments and love not being a pathway to the dark side a lie? These questions would create a deeper distrust between Ashla and her former master as she continues to dive more and more into Sith teachings. Back in the Jedi Temple, Emily is so distraught she has left and taken her X-Wing and left with the intent to never return to continue her training. Luke and Eli have been brainstorming about how they're going to go about confronting Ashla. Master, I've gone over every plan we have come up with. Unfortunately, all roads lead back to a confrontation with Ashla, said a concerned Eli. Luke looks at him with that "you've still got a lot to learn" look and replied, "Remember, my young Padawan, there are always alternatives to fighting. We must see the good in Ashla's heart and hope we can remind her of the good in her. Whatever is going on hasn't fully driven it from her. Our Ashla is still in there. I can feel the conflict within her. She's unpredictable. We will figure out what is going on with her, I promise, Eli." "And what if we can't?" said Eli with a hint of sadness in his voice. Luke smiled and said, "Then it is the will of the Force, Eli. We cannot force someone to be what they are not, nor can we bend the Force to our will." "Yes, Master, I understand, Master," said Eli. Off in the deep reaches of space, Emily Sha'ak had felt a calling in the Force, causing her to follow her gut instinct instead of what she wanted to do, which ended up bringing her to a very familiar swamp-like planet that she had heard about a million times, but finally witnessing for the first time. Dagobah. Once on the planet, Emily feels a call towards the infamous cave. As she approaches the cave entrance, she hears a very faint chuckle, almost like a cackle. Turning around, igniting her sky blue lightsaber, only to turn around in a full circle, seeing nothing, her grip tightening on her black hilt, asking, "Who's there? I'll have you know that I'm a Jedi Knight trained in the Force and in combat."
A lightsaber you wield. Powerful in the Force you are. But traditional Jedi Knight, you are not.
"Master Yoda, I've heard so much about you. My master talks about you all the time," Emil said in shock and enjoyment.
Yes, young Skywalker. I remember. Abandoned his training he did to save his friends. Quite a great Jedi he became. Yes, proud I am about him. This is not. Stay with Luke. Why did you not?
Emily goes on to explain everything to Master Yoda as he sits there nodding his head and taking everything in.
Go into the cave you must. Answers you seek will show. Leave your weapons. Need them you will not.
"I don't know what's in there though," Emily starts but is cut off by Yoda.
No, to me you will listen, unlike your master.
Emily listens to Yoda and leaves her blaster and her lightsaber sitting on a rock near the entrance of the cave, looks back to Master Yoda, but his Force ghost was already gone. "Well, if I don't need my weapons, it must not be that bad in here," said Amelie to herself as she entered the small cave entrance, to reveal it was just as big and foggy as if she were still outside the cave. As Emile walked around the cave, she began to feel like she was being watched, then ducks as she thanks the Force that she is able to sense when danger's around, because two giant boulders came hurtling through the air right over Amelie's head and exploded as they made contact with the wall in front of them. "What the hell was that?" Amelie asked, getting up. Before she could see what attacked her, she began to feel her throat closing and being crushed. She had no idea what to do or think. Suddenly, Emily was lifted off the ground, still unable to breathe, but managed to ask in between gasps of air, "Who are you?" All Emily heard in response was, "You could have helped me." And the voice was so familiar, but yet so different. You could have helped me, and you stood by and did nothing. You should have helped me, and you wanted to fix your X-Wing, taunted the voice in a cold, raspy growl. Ashla, Emil finally managed to say during her gasp for air. Finally, from the darkness of the cave, outstepped Ashla, but she was different. She now had all black robes, her hair was all wild and curly, and her eyes were no longer the nice, calm, cool emerald green Emily remembered seeing. They were a mix of crimson red and sunshine yellow. Her eyes looked as if they had flames burned into the irises. The black and chrome saber she now brandished emitted a crimson red blade. You could have helped me. You should have stayed. You are weak like I was. Now Darth Fatalis will destroy you, said Fatalis as she chucked Amelie to the side into a boulder. Wishing she at least had her blaster with her, she could at least distract Ashla, as Ashla ignited a second gold and black lightsaber hilt. But the blade was almost like fire, but at the same time retained its normal blade-like look. Emily looked in horror as she no longer saw the wide-eyed girl learning about the history of the Jedi Order. She no longer saw the girl who was so excited to learn saber training and even stupid menial tasks such as retrieving old scrolls, holocrons, or teachings from Master Luke to show them for lessons. She was now looking at an untamable beast with very little recollection of the history they had together. Fatalis rose her saber to strike Emily down when Emil used the Force to send Fatalis flying back, sending one of her sabers from her hand. Getting to their feet as fast as they can, Fatalis jumped with so much force, she left cracks within the ground and up the cave walls coming down on Amelie, but was blocked and shocked to see Amelie was wielding the other red lightsaber. But instead, it was a mix of white and yellow. I lost my parents, my brother, and my other family members because of their fear and mistrust in the Jedi. I won't lose you to the same fear, Ashla. I know there's still good in you. Luke always taught us that, screamed Emil with a disheartened tone. Cute speech. Might have worked on Ashla, but Ashla doesn't exist anymore. You Jedi really are impressionable, huh? Do you ever wonder if Luke is telling the truth? Said Fatalis with a cold smile across her face. This angered Amelie, and a massive lightsaber battle ensues. As the blade of red and yellow clashed and boulders were thrown across the cave, we see Ashla gathering wood for her camp and looking for some animal to have for dinner when she suddenly stops and starts looking around. She hears the faint sounds of sabers clashing and very, very faint yelling. Trying to figure out where they were coming from, she closes her eyes to focus on her surroundings, and when she opens her eyes, she could only see fog and the clash of red and yellow sabers. Confused to what's going on, Ashla tries to call out, but again realizes she could only look down. As she watched the sabers clash, the fog began to clear, and she couldn't believe what she was seeing. She saw herself and Amelie fighting. How could this be? Ashla thought to herself. Was this a clone? It couldn't be Kamino was destroyed, thought Ashla, although she had no knowledge of the tech or their way of cloning was destroyed as well. As Ashla looks down, she notices the ground is beginning to form cracks around Amelie and Ashla's clone as the sabers continued to clash. Eventually, Fatalis began shooting deep crimson red lightning towards Amelie, destroying just about everything in her path. Amelie had enough and managed to use enough of the Force to use force speed. She got behind Fatalis and slashed at her in a diagonal cut. But when the saber connected, the body vanished without a trace, sending Ashla back to her own consciousness. Confused, dripping with sweat, trying to process what just happened. What the hell was that, goddammit? What the hell was that? I thought Luke wanted everyone to know about everything, and now I'm being thrown into visions, seeing clones of myself. What else is he hiding from us? Ashla yelled as a growl in her voice grew louder and louder until one massive Force scream leaped out of her voice, causing her to become so weak from not being used to these new powers, draining her, and she fainted. Back at the Jedi Praxium, Eli Sarko entered Luke's quarters to see him hunched over his desk looking pale and ghostly as if he had been poisoned. Master, are you okay? Please answer me, shouted Eli to Luke, trying to hold him up. I'll be okay. I felt a great disturbance in the Force. Ashla, she's getting more powerful as the days pass. Have you not felt the fear and despair going through the Force, Eli? Asked Luke as he's regaining his strength. No, Master. I guess I've been too focused on how we are going to go about preparing to confront Ashla. I've also rebuilt my saber and made some modifications to my hilt. Do you think we are going to fight Ashla? asked a very excited but concerned Eli. We are Jedi, Eli. Trying to talk to someone being consumed by the dark side. I don't want to, but of course it will most likely result in a fight. Our goal isn't to kill Ashla, Eli. We've got to break her free of the chains bounding her to the darkness. We have to remember the good in her heart. No one is ever truly gone. Remember that. Luke said, giving Eli a massive flow of confidence that they will bring Ashla back. So what are we going to do? Eli asked his Jedi Master. I'm not sure yet. I'm trying to come up with a way to break through to her. I've told her about my temptations with the dark side. But if I'm being truthful with you, Eli, I've never actually gone to the dark side. I did give in to anger when Darth Vader threatened my sister Leia, but ultimately it took me being almost killed by the Emperor before my father turned back to the light side, destroying Darth Sidious once and for all. There's something else at play here. Ashla didn't turn on her own. I know I didn't tell her the whole truth, but I'm telling you now because I need you all to trust me and trust that I want the best for all of you. I want you to know how to balance your emotions, balance your inner dark side so you can be one with the Force and follow its will, Luke replied to Eli. Eli stood there staring at Luke for a solid 3 minutes before he finally took a breath and replied, Master, it doesn't bother me that you've never turned to the dark side. I know you want what's best for us, otherwise you wouldn't have opened a school to teach us. You didn't have to train the next generation of Jedi, you chose to because you cared that much. It doesn't bother me that you didn't show us everything of the dark side. To be honest with you, Master, I'm not interested in the dark side, nor do I feel a call to it. I appreciate that you taught us what you did that way. I can in turn use it in my favor, in case I need it, but I don't plan on using it. And that is why you are one of the greatest Jedi of this generation, Eli. Your heart is so pure. Come, we've got to save Ashla. Go tell Leia we will be borrowing some speeders from the base. Also, ask if Han, 3PO, and R2 are back. We may need all of us together to do this, Luke said, gathering his cloak and hooking his lightsaber to his belt. Yes, sir, right away, said Eli with so much excitement in his voice. Eli had always loved going to see General Leia and Han Solo. He loved hearing their stories from the rebellion during the Empire days. He looked up to them more than Luke himself. But don't tell Luke that. Back on Dagobah, Emil searches around for the fake Ashla and the saber she was just holding that vanished in thin air. What the hell is going on? Screamed Amelie. But it wasn't out of fear. No, it was out of confidence and courage. She exits the cave to see Yoda's Force ghost sitting playing with her actual lightsaber.
See what you fear most, have you? Glad you left your weapons, are you?
No, I'm not. I killed my best friend in there. That's not what I thought would happen as I went in there, continued Emil.
So vision you did. Filled with fear, you were. But overcame it. Did you not? Still scared, do you feel?
No, not really. Not anymore. I want to go help Ashla and prevent this from happening. Emil started but was cut off by Yoda raising his hand.
Back to young Skywalker, you must return. Remember what learned you did.
I will, Master, thank you. Come on, R3, let's head home, Emil said as her astro droid powered up the X-Wing and prepared to take off toward the Jedi Praxium. End of Part 1.